Now to the other big story of the day. The OSBI released the name of the Rogers County woman who they say killed 3 kids before killing herself.
This is absolutely heartbreaking. It's affecting all of Green Country, really. We brought you breaking news last night from the scene in Verdigris. Investigators say it started yesterday afternoon when 39-year-old Brandy McCaslin barricaded herself in a house there.
We have team coverage for you, including reaction from neighbors. But we begin with Fox 23's Alex Cash. She's live with what she learned new today about the investigation.
The neighborhood is quiet here this evening, but I have today seen people come here to this house, to the scene of what happened, and stand here in tears. We now know that 3 children aged 11 and under have died, and the police chief here today has told me that this is going to have a big impact on the community. The house is still taped off while investigations continue. The OSBI is in charge of the case with the support of Verdigris police. It was one of their officers who was patrolling the neighbourhood when his car was hit by a firework that was set off by a woman who had been locked in the garage of the house by the suspect. Verdigris Police Chief Jack Shackelford.
She had brought the victim that was being held in the house, was in the garage, had brought one of the children over to be supervised on a visit. And as soon as the individual came out of the house, she put the gun in her face, took her cell phone, her car keys, and took her child and retreated back into the house, locking that individual in the garage.
Police say the hostage also had 2 other children with her. They all managed to escape. OSBI say officers tried to negotiate with the suspect, 39-year-old Brandy McCaslin, for 3 hours, but didn't get a response. Chief Shackelford said that's when they went into the home.
That's when they discovered the victims in the bedroom and the suspect.
The OSBI says they think McCaslin shot all 3 kids and then turned the gun on herself. Investigators have also confirmed the ages of the children were 10 months old, 6 and 11 years old.
This affects everybody. It affects the community, affects the kids in the community. The kids are, they're going to feel it, and especially if they knew these other kids.
Chief Shackelford says his officers have been called out to the house before for domestic incidents and put an emergency detention order in place earlier this year, which took the suspect to a facility for a mental health evaluation.
We have been there on, I think, approximately back in January on a domestic disturbance which involved a gun, and she was wanting him out of the house, and she was going to get a protective order on him. She was trying to get him moved out, and we got there, and she had made some threats that she was going to harm herself.
The Verdigris police chief says his officer was making his usual patrols in this neighbourhood when he saw that the woman asked for help. She was in that garage over there behind. You can see those windows broken out. Those are the windows she fired that firework through to get that help. As I say, the Verdigris police chief says that his officer was just in the right place at the right time. He's also praising that hostage's actions and her quick thinking in calling for help.
All right, Alex, such a tragic story, and we saw the scene out there last night. There were so many law enforcement and first responders.
Yeah, Alex, is there any help available for the first responders who worked at that scene?
Yeah, this must have been such an awful scene, and it comes on the back of a separate murder-suicide that happened here in Verdigris back at Easter time. And as investigations continue, the police and first responders have been offered counselling to help them with what they saw here. Covering News That Matters, I'm Alex Cash, Fox 23 News.
Continuing our Fox 23 team coverage, we're hearing from neighbors about that tragedy in Verdigris. They told Fox 23's Julia Gorman they're heartbroken.
While there's still crime scene tape up surrounding this entire property, there's now also this colorful and bright memorial. I watched as a woman placed it there in front of this house while just squatting there and crying. Noe, Bryce, and Bubba are written across 3 wood panels. Scooters and a Batman bike also sit outside the home at the corner of Dogwood and Cypress. I knocked on the doors of at least a dozen homes in the quiet neighborhood. Neighbors tell me they're in shock. They say what happened Thursday night is devastating. One woman I talked with remembers law enforcement yelling through a blowhorn. She told me this tragedy makes her think about the difference small acts of kindness can have on a person's life. Another woman I talked with could barely get words out as she appeared to hold back tears. Hunter McKee with OSBI says this situation is also hard for law enforcement.
When you're talking about 4 individuals who are dead, 3 children, this is extremely difficult for everybody involved. Everybody that's looking into this trying to help best they can. As I said, this was a long process.
Covering news that matters. Julia Gorman, Fox 23 News.
It is just heartbreaking, and she talked about the woman there placing a memorial there just in tears, and it's hard to imagine for us who don't know the family, but to think of the family members, and we've been seeing those posts online, and it is absolutely devastating. So we are thinking of all of you tonight. Yeah,
the family members, you think about how it's hard for all of us and even those other people who strangers don't know those people, so it definitely even more tragic and heartbreaking for those who did know them.